Hey, everybody, welcome to the Green Room. We've got one special guest. We've got Stefan. And more importantly, we're going to be talking about where he's coming in from, what he's going to be talking about. And of course, we're going to go deep dive into his book because it's a very important topic. So, Stefan, tell us where you are today and, of course, what we're going to be talking about.
Hey, guys. So I'm based out of Zurich in Switzerland, and we're going to talk about how to create innovation.
Wow. Great. Well, we got Stefan Dieffenbacher there. And of course, we got El, our producer, and Vala, who's actually here. So amazing. We're all here in one spot, and we're actually going to take off. All right, let's do the count. And of course, we'll kick off the show.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on X at DisrupTV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guests, your questions live using hashtag DisrupTV. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang, recently elected council member for Cupertino. Congratulations, Ray. He's now an official politician. Added to his bio. He is the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World, a politician with a best-selling book. That's amazing. Ray is a regular television contributor on Bloomberg, CNBC, Fox, and Yahoo Finance. I see him on TV just about every day. In my humble opinion, he's one of the top features to follow on digital networks, including X, at RWANG0. So welcome, Governor Wang, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks a lot. No, it's been City Council. Definitely a fun event and a fun, hard-wrought election. Thanks a lot. Here with my amazing co-host, Vala Afshar, the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of multiple books, including Boundless. It's a new mindset for unlimited business success and a #1 seller on Amazon with his co-writer, of course, Henry King. And more importantly, executives around the world pay attention to every one of his inspirational and insightful tweets. When he's not keynoting or hosting or leading events at Salesforce, you can find him speaking on business TV outlets like Bloomberg and on ABC, and of course, posting insightful analyses on ZDNet. It's not about us, as we often say, it's about our amazing guests. And today we're going to go deep on a topic that we all love with an amazing guest. So Vala, who do we have to kick it off and carry us through today?
It's really a privilege for us to have amazing big thinkers and authors come on Disrupt. And Stefan Dieffenbacher was the author of How to Create Innovation, the ultimate guide to proven strategies and business models to drive innovation and digital transformation. Stefan is an international award-winning founder of Digital Leadership, an open source consultancy. Stefan has led over 20 multi-million euro and dollar innovation and transformation projects with small companies like Amazon, BMW, Google, Pfizer.
Never heard of these names.
Yeah, small brands. Building up and managing workforce of hundreds of people with investments north of hundreds of millions of euros. During his career, Stefan has led thousands of workshops. So again, practical application of his big thinking all over the world, helping leaders to systematically overcome innovation challenges. And going through that process, frustrated with the lack of cohesiveness in the innovation space, Stefan set about writing How to Create Innovation, his book that came out May of this year, new book. Stefan, in the process, worked with over 60 co-authors to put together a full-fledged guide to innovation and transformation, featuring what we believe may be the largest library of innovation tools on the web. You can follow his work. And when I say that, the book includes about 50 plus ready-to-use tools, models, canvases, which you can download and start applying to your organization right away. So it's a very practical guide. You can follow his work on X at leading_digital, leading_digital. Welcome, Stefan, to DisrupTV.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Yeah.
We're really excited to have
Great
you.
having you.
I mean, you've got the ultimate compendium here of innovation, and it's not just about innovation. It takes into how you bring people together to create innovation, how you bring that to commercialization. Lots of people talk about innovation, which is great in a fluffy sense, and what you've done is put together a practicum, I think, that people can easily digest. And so one of the things that you start by talking about is figuring out where you do innovation and use a concept through the definition of search fields and opportunity spaces to figure out how to create a differentiating factor here that will keep you unique. Talk about that process, because that's a very, very hard part, is where to start. And most organizations, they start with what they know. They don't necessarily start with what they don't know. They are put into a challenging position of trying to innovate on the fly when what they're doing is really just iteration. So help identify and express what that innovation could look like.
Well, perhaps one step before, the big challenge is the number one challenge actually in both innovation and digital transformation is most organizations don't get their setup right. So we clearly have to differentiate between Horizon 1 thinking, where we execute and improve, Horizon 2, where we disrupt and transform ourselves, and Horizon 3, innovation. Innovation is actually radical in nature. And regardless what you think about, regardless if you think about organizational culture or the setups or the HR or technology or marketing, everything changes quite radically depending on what you intend to achieve. And that is the number one error actually organizations make out there, that they typically try to use the tools of Horizon 1 to solve innovation problems, and that by definition cannot work. That is, I think, where we perhaps need to start the debate before we go into actually where should we be innovating.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And I think, when we think about that, getting that setup right, is it a function of time? Is it a function of just having the right leadership? Is it just not even having the right people around you?
I think it's understanding, first of all, the problem, that you have to get the right setup, because I don't know, these organizations, they used to execute and improve every day, and they typically use the exact same setups with the exact same people,
That's not
with the
work.
exact same culture, to then do innovation. That by definition just must fail. And this is what we see most of the times, when 90% of all innovation actually go wrong. This is the first thing that you have to think about as you enter into a transformation or even a radical innovation, that you have to think about, hey, what kind of setup do we actually need in regards to everything?
Tell us about your journey. When did you become a student of innovation? Was there a particular project? Was it a particular mentor? Was it your education and schooling? At what point in your career were you able to even identify a horizontal view of capability and competency and maturity? What was the inflection point? How did you fall in love with the concept and the practice and the art and the science of innovation? Who influenced you, and perhaps our audience, because all of us care about innovation. You've written a book about something we all care about. So your total addressable market is everyone.
So I guess I was, I was literally thrown into this. So prior to the year 2000, we started a startup together with some friends, and our journey was basically to build up something similar like Yahoo, but on a local scale. So on a regional level and a city level. And so we built that up, and it crashed in the year 2000, but we managed to exit some part of the technology to Microsoft back then. This is, I guess, how my entrepreneurial venture started in the early days. And then I went to work for the big organizations, for the BCGs, the IBMs, the Sapiens, Publicis of this world, where I had the luck to lead, I guess, some of the biggest initiatives globally, and got very much frustrated that we seem to face the same challenges over and over again. And as a leader of those initiatives, I then decided, hey, there must be better ways, and let's deep dive into methodologies. So this led me on a constant quest till today, and eventually building up that entire Unite, we call it the Unite IP and Unite Research, which ended up, amongst others, in this book, How to Create Innovation. Yeah, this was my journey in a nutshell.
How long to write the book? From
Well, we didn't actually write the book. Originally in 2015, I kicked off a research effort into better ways of doing innovation. No? And we quickly saw that in my team, we didn't manage to cover everything. And that's why I invited friends and people we know to join that effort. So we strategically looked into more and more fields, but eventually we made a research covering in total 270 initiatives post-mortem, and really looked into why do they fail. Yeah? And this led to that research effort, and ultimately to designing models that interconnect, because we don't have a problem normally to define the best possible user experience or the best possible business model or the best possible value proposition. But the real challenge is, how do I identify an important but unmet customer need, go from there to elevator pitch, to value proposition, to business model, to operating model, to organizational structure and culture. We need to take it end to end, basically. That is the challenge that is unresolved to large degrees out there, and which is not understood. So how do we go the entire chain? Yeah?
But Stefan, it's so hard. It's so hard to have, executives have systems thinking. You're asking them to think across, around, divide, in diagonals. Like they've been thinking in operations, right? And the downstream implications, the ecosystem implications, right? The multi-sided models, right? It's not something that comes out of their nature. Like, how do you get them there?
That's the real big challenge, because also from university, we study one particular field, and then we believe, technology will cut it, or the business case will cut it, or the product will cut it, or the brand. But it's just not the case. So when you build an innovation, when you design a startup or a new venture of whatever being, or do an entrepreneurial thing, we have to get everything up to it. And I think one of the biggest myths is that individual excellence, in my opinion, is totally overrated. A mediocre business model is good enough. A mediocre product is good enough. A mediocre marketing plan is good enough, but it needs to connect. That is the most important thing. And we have to get this cross-functional understanding and this cross-functional play. And I think this is what this book is also all about, that we finally have tools that bridge all those disciplines, that we can truly build it.
I suspect part of the connectivity tissue of even a mediocre or an amazing organization, it's culture. And you talk about culture canvas as a kind of a maturity-driven approach to leading culture change. Talk to us. What is a culture canvas? How did you come up with the concept of culture canvas? And what are some practical advice you can give to business leaders who can benchmark their maturity, current maturity models, and then grow over time?
So basically, everybody agrees out there that culture is the elephant in the room. But then people wonder, is it about sushi lunches or ping pong tables or massages in offices? I mean, this is what seriously most organizations think it is, and that's what they then deploy. And it's mostly the structural side of things. That's why they like colorful offices. They can touch it. Ping pong tables, they can order them. But basically, this is a very much misunderstood and insufficient piece of culture. So similarly here, we had an entire group. We had 45 people or so who worked for 1.5 years to come up with the first culture canvas, which identifies strategically the 10 to 15 biggest levers on organizational culture. And this, I guess, is something that you can leverage straight out of the box and make an as-is assessment to identify what is our culture in our firm today and what should it eventually be. And overlaying to that, I guess we have developed the first maturity model on culture, because if we come back to the medieval ages, to military strategy, etc., we have those deep organizational pyramids.
Yep.
And today what is happening in most organizations, the pyramid is getting flatter. It's getting flatter. But we're still working normally in the very principle of an organization that is still functioning as a pyramid. Versus we should perhaps tilt the pyramid or make it upside down or go to a more circular organization. But that is still the hard stuff of culture. And next to it, you have mindset. You have that big concept of decision making, where the most important question is actually who is deciding to start with. Having
and
the right.
Role, and the role of the CEO. My personal experience in tech for 30 years, the CEO has a material impact on the culture of the company.
Absolutely.
Sense of urgency is driven from the top. The ability to pivot. If you're a founder of a company and you're a technologist, I think it's easier to have more audacious vision, goals, roadmap, and you can build consensus very quickly because you have domain expertise. You're technical, and of course, I'm only, my experience has only been in tech world. So when I'm with a company that has a weak CEO, they're not able to transition as fast. They typically are not innovative to their full potential. And they tend to be laggers and followers. When there's a strong CEO and she has domain expertise, understands customer needs, understands how to recruit and retain talent, it's a different ballgame. When you came up with those levers on your canvas, how much of the emphasis was leadership at the very top?
So basically, this book stems from the belief, you worked always in technology, so technology is normally extremely well advanced. And I have been working, I guess, across pretty much all sectors. Yeah. And therefore, these are very large organizations, often with hundreds of thousands of employees. And therefore, you need a CEO, which is also execution focused, because this is where the business coming from. And this execution focused business is normally evolving only slowly. So the only way I can see those large organizations at least evolving is having a second CEO almost next to it. The ambidextrous organization where you have next to the CEO somebody who is really focused on new business and enables that strategically, because one CEO cannot, I guess, run proficiently the execution part of a company and next do everything else.
So that makes a lot of sense, right?
Split those responsibilities. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, right? The point is having the right people, having the right teams, then getting the right mindset. And then we get to this part, like where it gets me really excited, is the fact that how do we create ultimately unfair advantage, right? It takes a lot of time to get there when you get these concepts that you talk about to build that, because everybody's looking for that, and it's not coming from technology anymore, right? It's coming from something else. Is it the business model? Is it the operations plan? Is it like where are you getting that? Because it's so easy to imitate, and everybody's looking for that differentiation.
Yeah. And perhaps one concept here, which is absolutely critical to understand, is that 80% of all processes and capabilities of an organization are not even industry specific. The way you do marketing, the way you do finance, the way you do forecasting or HR or even operate is most often not industry specific. Only 20% are. And so in 15% of the operations and all your capabilities and processes, you're battling head to head. They are industry specific, but you're not better. You're only differentiating with 2 to 5% of your organization. And that is the number one point you have to investigate and understand. What is it to start with that you're differentiating with? And what is it that you're not differentiating with? Because in the other areas, you should be cutting costs and you should be standardizing to eventually have the budget to put that into the areas where you're differentiating and to strengthen your innovation capabilities.
So I can fund my innovation with my cost cutting by identifying those areas I'm not differentiated and commoditizing them as fast as I can so that I can double down on my resources to focus on innovation, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. That is absolutely quintessential. Yeah. But to start with, you have to understand what those non-core capabilities, those standardization parts are, and what you're really differentiating with. And the easiest way to do so is leveraging a capability map. So you can literally stand in front of it and say, hey, what is that you're differentiating with, and what is absolutely non-core, what is not even industry specific. And then you know immediately, where should I standardize, cut costs, where should I invest to strengthen my differentiation? Because what you're strong with today already, is very likely not easily copyable. And next to this is what you throw everything at it that you got.
So this is a classic Porterism, right? The essence of strategy is choosing not what to do, and what we're actually doing here is actually doubling down on that.
Yeah. In most situations, that's the very best choice, because what you're differentiating today with is likely already leveraging your core capabilities, etc. That's the easiest way. And of course, you can be building up entirely new capabilities, but that is the hard way.
I don't know if I disagree with my co-host, but I thought I heard technology is not going to be your ultimate unfair advantage. And if that's so, I do disagree, because I believe AI is the ultimate unfair advantage. And if you're not a business investing in innovation powered by AI, you're not going to be able to compete. You're not going to gain success in this new economy, in my opinion. And I don't even view it as new technology. To me, it's a whole new world. And if you're a cost center today, believe you me, in the next 3, 5, 10 years, you're going to be a minimum viable cost center. There's no way businesses are going to tolerate waste. And unfortunately, some white collar work today could be considered waste. Anything that can be automated will be automated, because the ROI is too good for the board and the CEO and the executive teams to ignore. So there is technology today, unlike any other in my lifetime, that's going to, I believe, create massive unfair advantage. And those who don't have it will cease to exist, in my humble opinion. Raise the futurist. I'm not. But I have strong opinions about that. Your thoughts?
So I led the first hackathon of Microsoft and OpenAI on the topic of AI with 17 key strategic accounts of Microsoft. And this is what we found today. You projected yourself a little bit forward. And what we found basically today, that organizations were very much capable of identifying strong technology cases for AI, but that wouldn't necessarily make a difference. So most of them, they tried to automate something and then it would save a couple of FTEs. But in all honesty, that won't break the bank in most cases. Sure, you have saved a couple of FTEs. You may have saved a couple of 100K or millions or even double-digit millions. But you can't save your way to win. That just can't work by definition. So again, where should you be deploying AI? It's in the functions where you're differentiating to strengthen your differentiating capabilities today. So it goes back to my main point. Where should you leverage AI? Where you differentiate.
Yeah. Just want to give you a real recent for my company. Our support website gets over 60 million visits annually. And the visits are moderate to high complexity. You're asking about enterprise software. We're not selling sneakers or CPG products. I mean, you're talking about configuring enterprise software. So the nature of the inquiry is medium to high complexity. For the last 4 months, feeding over 700,000 discrete documents, we launched an agentic layer where the first interaction with our customers, humans, is powered by intelligent software. So we went from 2% of contact being escalated to humans to 1%. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about the volume, that's tens of thousands of cases that no longer went to humans. We went from a 60% first contact closure with customer satisfactorily closing to 83%. So what's the dilemma? This is amazing. Like, we far exceeded our expectations. We're now thinking, how do we reskill the men and women, army of them, that were manning a 60 million visited website to go into sales, to go into marketing? Because the intelligent software is doing a better job at solving the problems. And maybe a digital native company like Microsoft or us can do this faster and better. And like you said, tech companies are best positioned to take advantage of emerging tech. But the fact that you created a digital twin of employees, and those employees are performing far better than the humans, is making us pause, sit back, and now think about the demographic of our workforce and the functions. And we've never had to really make decisions, big decisions, large-scale decisions in terms of who we hire, who we retain, this quickly. Cloud, mobile, social, none of the prior waves created this, because we were just inventing tools. We were innovating with tools to help us do the work. Now the tool is doing the work. It's something.
So this is a very good example what you're telling, and you produced amazing results. Huh? I mean, really amazing. Huh? Yeah. So you basically had a super big cost-cutting case. So again, this money could be reinvested where you truly differentiate, because regardless how many FTEs you save in customer service, you'll never be overtaking the competition by doing more of that. Yeah. So again, my main case still rests. Huh? What are you? Where could you leverage AI in your technology company at Salesforce to truly make a difference with your customers? And that's most likely not customer service. Yeah, it's making it somewhat easier. You save a lot of money, perhaps. But how can you improve your product? This is the central battleground.
Yeah. But if the savings didn't result in a 50% reduction in escalated cases or a 20-point increase in first contact resolution, we wouldn't launch it. So it has to be. I think business leaders who are looking to innovate are looking at 10x outcome, 1/10 cost. Like the requirements are going to go way beyond productivity and efficiency. It has to be. I want the marriage experience to be better than the courtship experience, which means the service and support quality cannot degrade. You're in a subscription business. If your service quality stinks, they're going to go to another competitor. So how do you maintain stickiness at 10x output with 1/10 cost? And so the innovation space is so amazingly fast in terms of velocity, speed, and direction today with some of the tech we're talking about. Sorry, Ray, I'm geeking out on just one element, but it's important because I'm telling you, we are, as a company, my company is opening our eyes to things that have never been as big of an opportunity and challenge at the same time. There's no, the experts of yesterday are not the experts of tomorrow, is what I'm learning, because the scenarios are changing, which means you need a canvas, you need a guide, you need a book. You need a method. You need a methodology, because a river without boundaries is a puddle. You're going to very quickly find yourself in a puddle if you don't have guides like the book we're talking about. Go ahead, Ray. Go ahead.
No problem. I was actually trying to think out, Stefan, like as you think about this innovation landscape, and now you've got the culture canvas in place, right? You know where the culture's sitting, and back to the earlier point, Vala, on my end, is that the tech is no longer differentiating. Everyone's going to have a level of AI, but what goes into that AI is going to be very, very different, right? The way you differentiate your people, your processes, the way you differentiate the outcomes. There's something that's going to be different here, and I know I'm still focusing on differentiating capabilities that you have there. Is it at the people level? Is it at the innovation level? Is it the metrics? Is it the business model framework that you have? Like, how does that all tie together when you put a nice little neat bow for it when you wrap it up?
Wait, I mean, out of a business model, you typically would be differentiating on your value and service model. It's unlikely you differentiate somewhere on your operating model or cost model, etc. So within the value and service model, look at the capabilities you have today and carefully think through, okay, where could we differentiate next? That's one key angle. The other key angle is, where are important but unmet customer needs that are not yet resolved out there in the market space? And I think a big misunderstanding today is that most organizations still think in terms of segments, and segments won't help you uncover it, because regardless how much you know about a particular persona or segment, this won't tell you his unmet need. Yeah? And perhaps to make a practical example, so I guess we got to know each other now a little bit, and I have a very simple question for you. Like, where am I going to dinner? To a fancy restaurant or to a bar? Yeah? and probably you can't answer that question unless I tell you, hey, today I'm going to meet still with the student group I've been together with and studying with 15 years ago. Well, then it becomes relatively obvious. Most likely those guys are going to the nice bar. And what this simple example illustrates is I need to recognize the important but unmet customer needs and segment based on those. Once I understand the important but unmet customer needs, then I know what to focus on. And then I go in there with my differentiating capabilities and leverage those. And that's when I have a basis for innovation. That is far better than ideation, because ideation is basically, you could as well play the lottery.
Yeah. So Stefan, when you're advising companies like BMW and Amazon and Google and all these amazing large organizations with massive budgets and audacious goals to transform, how do you build alignment with people and processes? Or how quickly can you determine whether there is misalignment and there's a need for them to maybe step back and build consensus and a common purpose in terms of how they innovate? How important is alignment, and what's your approach in strengthening alignment, especially with large organizations?
Alignment could come from so many angles, and the first thing when you see a rotten project, is that not the right people are not talking with the right people. That's most likely the number one cause. Second cause could come from a culture which doesn't align. And we briefly spoke about it. The third big trouble is often that it's the wrong reporting structure we have, with that there is often ego and different kingdoms at play. That's the third biggest topic which you have to investigate when things are not going well. And last but not least is, do we have alignment within the team itself? So do we understand where we should be going to, and do we have a common understanding about that? And that point brings back to, do we have an understanding of the important but unmet needs? Do we have an understanding of the business priorities and where we differentiate? If we have that and overlay that, then the team should be going in the right direction, particularly if they leverage something like OKRs or something similar.
And do you see often these leaders identify key performance indicators for their line of business collectively? Like, does the CMO, does the chief marketing and the chief revenue officer co-create what success looks like, and then identify common KPIs that they agree with? What's practical advice you can give in terms of building alignment? Is it, don't create your key performance indicators in a silo, make sure you communicate and build consensus so everybody has a common definition of success? What are some of the things they could do to build alignment? Simple things, if there is such a thing as simple.
What we often struggle with when we work with large organizations is that quite often we work in the absence of strategy. And you may not believe it, but most organizations don't have a detailed strategy. So they have lofty ambitions. We want to grow by X% by the year 2030. Or something like that, but often it's unclear how they go about it, what their plans are, etc. So we try to derive their strategy from how they act. So we look into, what do they invest in, what are their focal points, how do they behave, and based on that we actually redefine a strategy that we use as a context then for projects. And that is surprising that most organizations out there are missing a strategy. And strategy includes a direction, but plus includes as well a way how to get there, a roadmap. And that is what we often find missing. And we worked backwards on this to define the strategy and to have a context. So I think it goes way beyond KPIs. We are missing not only the objectives, and KPIs are detailed objectives, but we often miss the roadmap. That is the tough thing that is often missing. And that often shows that there is insufficient agreement among the leadership. So we are indeed missing something that holds marketing and sales and production and R&D, etc. together. That is what leaders should be working on.
Yeah, makes sense.
As you work through all these different projects, right, you have different pieces of the business model framework, which is, right, figuring out the unmet customer needs, figuring out the value prop, figuring out the business model, figuring out the org change, doing the culture change. What's the hardest part you've noticed? Like, is there a common theme as to an area within the business model framework that you end up having to spend more time than others with?
At some point in time, people can agree on a business model. What they typically fail to understand and see is strategy execution. Now we have that beautiful business model. We have that beautiful, perhaps even operating model, but how do we truly realize that and take it to action? And
so it's confusion. Is it a confusion between like a monetization model and a business model?
No, I just my 2 cents, my experience is that when you have a beautiful strategy and you fail, it's because you didn't commit resources to it. You identified a roadmap, but you didn't assign tasks and budgets and resources and even safe space to innovate. So a strategy without committed resources is vaporware. It's useless, in my humble opinion. And often I see, whether it's pressure, you're a public company, you had a poor quarter results, and now you're tightening budgets, and often I find that it's lack of committed resources and the right resources.
You're making a very interesting and important point here, because if we dive for a second into portfolio allocation, what we see the biggest firms in the world doing is they're investing 10, 20, 25% of their revenues into innovation. That is what the Google, Amazons, Nvidias, and these kind of companies are doing. Now, what the average Fortune 500 company does, and let's discard the tech sector for a while, they're typically investing 1 to 2% of their revenues in innovation, and that's it. Yeah. And then the next CEO comes, and there is a quarterly change, and that is the big problem. No? That often resources are lacking and that innovation isn't taken seriously. And then the people are astonished that they get disrupted. Like, seriously, guys?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Accenture just did a research study that said when companies increase their IT budget by 6% annually on average, and they devote 15% of their IT budget to reducing their legacy debt, those companies represent a population that has 40% increase in revenue with the affinity group of folks that they compete against, and 60% improvement in margin. So it takes 6% year after year incremental increase in IT budget, and then 15% and then modernization and reducing. So you do have to invest. And I'm afraid in this world of AI, you really do have to invest, and it's not inexpensive. But not all costs are wasteful. All waste are costly, but not all costs are wasteful. So as your CFO is maybe discounting your innovation cost, he or she may actually be putting your company in a trajectory that you can't recover from.
So
Sorry, go ahead, Ray.
Taking the funding side aside here, I mean, of those parts here, is there an area that you double down in because that's driving? Is it the business model or the org change or something that you're seeing that's been a factor? So,
not particularly. The setting and the challenges are very different from industry to industry.
Every industry to industry. Okay.
So I don't think there is a piece of generic advice.
Okay. And then back to Vala's point, right? That investment level and commitment for investment, that doesn't happen until you set the table, right? You set the scene and you get everybody in place. Is there a catalyst that's causing people to say, like, is it because they feel like they are not competitive enough or they're not able to innovate fast enough? Because putting your money where your mouth is kind of what Vala is saying. Like, are you serious about innovation if you're only committing 1% of your budget?
Yeah, that's the big problem. Huh? That most often
most
organizations are not playing to win. No? And the organizations we work with, if they are not playing to win, then it's often not working well. It's only when you are deciding, hey, we want to win this game, then you're going to put the resource behind it. And that's only 20% of the organizations, perhaps, that are truly about winning. Most are in very much in a defensive position. And what you just mentioned on tech budgets is an interesting one, because just raising tech budgets works in technology. In all other sectors, it's not that easy, because technology is a service provider to everybody else. hey, you have 6% more, and let's continue prioritizing who shouts the loudest. This is what is happening out there. Huh? Unless technology becomes truly a leadership function, and the technologies guys can lead, and they are driving the roadmap, are you going to get results? If the other departments rule, it will. That's often the picture we see is the one who shouts loudest wins. And unless you break that game somehow, that is the prerequisite.
But Stefan, we hired you to help us shout louder.
Yeah, no. Stefan makes a very important point, and I think business leaders should recognize. Look, you're either in the business of moving bits or atoms. Salesforce is in the bits business. We move bits. But if you're a mining, oil and gas restaurant, you're moving atoms. But companies that are in the business of moving atoms, who operate like companies that are moving bits, the reason Tesla is $1 trillion market cap company is because it's moving bits. It's not moving atoms. Its evaluation is the data it's capturing to create a self-driving car, the robo-taxi ecosystem, and so on and so forth. So, in fact, 9 of the 10 companies with largest market cap today are bits, even though they're not traditionally all bits. So you're right. The laggards are the atoms companies, but all companies who want to compete in the foreseeable future better think like bits companies, and their innovation strategy should be bits, not atoms. Go ahead, Ray. Sorry.
Entirely digitizing their business model. And that requires you to rethink the entire business model. And the biggest complexity here is once you change one aspect, people often think let's do digital transformation and then we install perhaps an e-commerce system or whatever. But the implication is often not understood that once you touch one piece, all the others will have to be fully digitized and thought through as well. And that is the big challenge in digital transformation, which companies struggle with, because then it's not just one vice president or leader who needs to be supportive, but all of them. And this is often not the case. Yeah?
It's a slippery slope. Just stick with the facts and a pen and paper. You'll be fine.
I just read it.
Hey, I still have a notebook, Ray. Don't make fun of us who still.
I do too. I totally do.
I'm an electrical engineer, so I go through these notebooks. I don't know, 10 of these a year. So
these are key. Stefan,
bits and atoms.
Stefan, thank you so much for being here. And I think it's a very important book that everyone should be checking out, and people can get a chance to read that. If you go to X @leading_digital, that's how you can follow Stefan. We're here with Stefan
Creating Innovation,
author of How to Create Innovation, the ultimate guide to proven strategies and business models to drive innovation and digital transformation. Thanks a lot for being on the show. Hope to see you in Zurich.
Thank you, Stefan. Enjoy the dinner with your former students at the bar. Have a good night. Thanks.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Not an easy topic to write about, but when you invite 60 practitioners and authors to contribute, and you got 50 use cases, and you've got a lot of visuals in the book that can help guide you, it's important heavy lift that Stefan went through.
It's a great compendium. It's a good how-to guide. It's one of those things that you want to have, and you're definitely getting you're getting the expertise of 60 experts around the world who've been through this pain. So,
Ray, you've been busier than usual. Let me ask, so congratulations on being elected into an official position to represent your city, Cupertino. My question, and it was a long campaign. You were competing against 4 ex-mayors, so you had established, seasoned politicians, and you're not one, which may have been an advantage for you. Apparently so, you got elected. What lessons did you learn going through this journey that's going to make you a better CEO, better futurist, and someone who's in the business of educating and inspiring and building consensus for some of the most important companies, most important business leaders? What was the humbling part of this experience? And did you come out of it a better person?
We ran a positive campaign. So the short answer is yes. We hope that people noticed it was a positive campaign, and that doesn't always happen. So we're glad there's a good outcome. As a CEO, I think the biggest part is establishing purpose and a burning platform. I think Stefan has this right. Most CEOs are not in the mind of innovation. And in my job, our job is to be thinking about innovation and disruption every day. And sometimes we get bogged down to the day-to-day details. And so when you're campaigning, you realize that when you give people really clear purpose, it's about signing up for the cause. It's not about the paycheck. It's not about anything else. It's the journey. And me and my running mate, we ran on a slate, Kitty Moore. We had volunteers that had purpose, right? We turned out 150 volunteers versus, the other side, which was basically spending a lot of money. And I think that's really the difference. Is if you want to motivate people, you have to have really clear, defined purpose. And you find the folks that are completely motivated, you can get a lot done, right? With very little money. So
nothing great has ever been done without clarity of purpose, in my opinion. And so that's great advice. So follow-up question. Sorry, I didn't mean to interview you for the last 10 minutes, but I'm curious. You were hoping we cut the podcast short and you can go eat your lunch. But I've never felt more pressure in my career. Pressure is maybe the wrong word. Sense of obligation in my career to properly advise my customers, my partners, friends, colleagues, and a driving force for my strong sense of purpose and a little bit of angst about, am I doing my best work, is AI. I'm fortunate to work at a company where it's our singular focus. So I am seeing magical things in our labs. And then those magical things in our labs are going into production and our customers in weeks, months, not quarters and years. So it reminds me of when you and I watched Oppenheimer, the movie, last year. And it reminds me of, and I've said this to you before, the atomic structure quantum physicist Niels Bohr, who in 1922 won a Nobel Prize for his work. And he was commissioned by Oppenheimer to help build the atomic bomb. At one point, he turns in the movie to Oppenheimer, and he says, "You need to convince the politicians this isn't new technology. This is a new world." And then he pauses and he tells Oppenheimer, "You gave mankind the tool they needed to destroy themselves. So you have to have a sense of urgency to explain to them, this is not about, the world has changed forever." And I don't want to equate AI to atomic bomb, but that was
unleashed. It's been unleashed on the world.
That's a profound, and in fact, Niels Bohr went on to be a founder of CERN. He was one of the founding members of CERN. So he wanted to bring all the researchers together. He wanted to democratize access to information. He wanted to centralize big thinking because he realized the profound impact of what he had helped build. And it's a new world. And in my technological 30 years, I feel the same because my company isn't building tools for you to do the work. Social, mobile, cloud, IoT, these were all tools in your toolbox so you can do the work. Now we're producing a tool that does the work, independent of you in some cases, if you feel comfortable with the outcome. So it's not assistive, it's autonomous. When you ran a purposeful campaign, and I'll put that aside, and your main hat is you're the CEO of one of the leading consultancy firms in Silicon Valley. So the biggest companies on earth come to you for advice. How has your sense of purpose and Constellation Research sense of purpose grown? And I'm assuming it has grown because we're in the same field. So I can't imagine you have a lesser point of view on this than I do. And so what's different about you and Constellation when you come and guide customers? Are you shaking them saying, don't ignore this because if you do, you might not survive? What are you doing? What are you doing differently?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things, right? We walked in from the internet age into the AI age, and in their internet age, it was very defined as to, as you were saying, like what we actually have to do to make something happen. In the AI age, it's very different because what we're really trying to do is set up a level of decision intelligence, decision automation that the world has never seen before. And so the questions are different. It's not where you automate, it's when and where do you insert a human, right? It's not how much data do I need? It's basically where can I actually augment my data sources to get to higher levels of precision, right? So there is a massive framework shift that's going on, and most people don't realize that. I don't think AI or technology is the competitive weapon. I think it's how you're going to use AI that creates the competitive weapon. Everybody's going to have some level of AI, but not everyone's going to have the same level of data, and not everyone's going to have the same level of systems thinking to understand what the implications of that data is. So I'll give you an example. Like, people have data all the time, but they don't know what to do with it. And Tesla with Autopilot has a ton of data about maps and driving, and they're capturing data on the road. It's pretty wild. What they did was they basically took their driver data, sold it to an insurance company for underwriting, and now they're offering customers, basically insurance at half off because you have the best drivers. You know what drivers are able to do, and they've got ratings that are automatically built off of that. And so companies are becoming what we call data Inc. companies because of AI. Those companies that are the ones that can actually take that data and figure out how to build new business models, monetize, and create innovation. And most organizations haven't figured that out yet. And that's the thing. Like, in the age of AI, it's not more AI that you're trying. It's faster decisions. It's building better data products.
We're producing intelligence in work. I don't care if you're a CMO, CMO, every line of business. I recently spoke to a CMO, and we were demonstrating how you can create campaigns, and you can A/B test in real time, and you can create your social outreach automatically from the campaign, and the copy is being adapted based on input coming from customers in real time. And then you see conversion rates improving. You see abandoned shopping carts improving or declining. You see propensity to buy improve. You see average deal size improve in every dimension, because it's self-iterating and getting smarter and doing it at machine scale. Really, machines, where and when insert human, the answer for both time and location is decreasing over. These are numbers that are going to be less and less and less over time. Now, I'm not saying, again, I call it minimum viable cost center, because the productivity gains are not only incredible, but the outcome is better. You're answering questions faster, better. You have contextual intelligence because the reasoning engine, the software is working on 10, 100,000 different dimensions. You and I, after 8 or 9 dimensions, we're done. So the dominant logic I think business leaders need to let go of is, yes, there is a cognitive download to software, and software will do a better job. Now, that doesn't mean there's no room for us. I don't subscribe to Altman, next year we have AGI, or next 2 or 3, but in the next 4 or 5, I'm in that camp.
Look, the best quote I heard from our customers is from a CFO of a large manufacturer. And he pretty much said, look, everything comes down with volume and time in terms of cost, except for healthcare and cloud. And he's got a point, right? Every customer at this point is trying to figure out how to take their OpEx costs, drive it down so that they can get to the next level. And they're hoping AI is going to play a role there. Every customer is trying to figure out how to get code gen faster than anyone else, or to be able to build products faster than anyone else. And it comes back to how you harness the power of AI to do that, right? And every organization is at this point is trying to figure out where they can actually build relationships better. And they know that's not where AI is going to be, right? That's going to be where the human touch is, but it's going to be augmented. And how do you get people there?
So great topic, because an area I'm researching, which currently is labeled relational intelligence. I think when you design for relationships in the future, especially a machine-led human assist future, companies will be more deliberate about how they design for relationships, and it'll be driven by the intelligence they have about the customer, the ecosystem, the community. So I think there's going to be an entire branch of relational intelligence that's AI powered, and it will scale relationships. It'll ensure mutual exchange of value. Anytime there's a pause in mutual exchange, it'll intervene because it has real-time ability to sense and predict. So our ability to deliver better experiences, especially in an autonomous construct, and maybe in an e-commerce site or your headless digital storefront or whatever it may be, especially if you're in the bits business, not the atoms business. There's going to be an entire practice of building relationships leveraging intelligence and hyper automation unlike anything we've ever seen. I think actually CMOs, if you're a CMO and you're listening right now, you better be driving these set of initiatives, because when it comes to SEM, customer experience management or customer experience, I think the CMOs have been absentees, and they've delegated too much to the IT or revenue, or even invented titles like chief digital. And you really need to get in the game. Marketing should be not just about awareness, but making sure the marriage experience is better than courtship. And we now have software that can help us do that. And it does it for us. Anyway, we could have a whole discussion about that. I'm sure it's a book-worthy topic. But closing remarks, before your closing remarks, because I know, okay, let me, next episode for us is next week. And it's the last episode of 2024. In 2024, we've had dozens of authors, including our current guest, that have been on the show. Last year, we had the 2023 top books, DisrupTV recommended books that every business leader should have on their desk. This year, we're going to do the same. So we're going to start off our next show highlighting the top, I'm going to say top 20, because Ray and I have been going back and forth. And again, we can't come to an agreement on top 10.
We're close. We'll get 20 in place by the end of this week.
Yeah. So I think, by the way, we've probably had 80 plus authors on the show. So sadly, 20 still only represents maybe 1/4, 1/5 of the total number of books. So I apologize. The reason why we have debates is because we recognize
we have great guests. We have great books.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to make sure they're great books with great guests. So I think
right. These are it has to be both, I suppose, but the book certainly is the key element. So next week we're going to go over our top 20, and we'll talk about the 20 books, and we'll talk about why we selected the books, and we'll get your feedback. We'd love for you to come and weigh in, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, recommend books we missed. You might even change our mind. You might come up with a supplement if somebody has a very strong argument. And then a year recap, which, hopefully will close what will be our journey to 10 years. Next February, it'll be 10 years on Disrupt. We have an amazing community. We have lots of viewers, lots of folks that help expand my mind, Ray's mind. We spend our precious time Friday afternoons, where most people are decompressing. For Ray and I, it's our Super Bowl. So hopefully our commitment to you is tangible enough for you to know how much we care about you. Ray, closing remarks about next week and what we can expect perhaps in 2025.
Yeah, we're going to spend some time talking about some of the trends that we're seeing going into 2025. There's a lot happening, and I think it's a lot of things are shifting in the world, and I think we'll hit some of the different elements, whether it's through technology lens or a business model lens. We'll try to touch on those, and of course, year-end recap's always fun. I guess Val and I will figure out which episode we like the most.
That's asking me about my favorite child. I will say one thing, and this is impromptu. Elle, I'm sorry, our producer is going to not like me for this. If you've been on the show and you want to join our recap, just send Elle a note and we'll pull you in live on the show. So if you've been a guest, and we've had 150 guests, and you want to share something, John Reed, this is an invite to you. Ron Miller, this is an invite to you. Folks that are covering
Gurvinder.
Gurvinder, this is a Gurvinder. Some of you may not know, one of the most accomplished CMOs that I know, really doing incredible work, and a good friend and an advisor. Frankly, I consider him an advisor to me and to Ray and to the show. Gurvinder, welcome. Get on board with us and help us with the recap. So if you're watching, so maybe this is more than just guests. It could be guests and folks that are committed and advocates of our show. We'll keep an eye on you and we'll pull you into the conversation. Just bring your A game, because it is the last episode of 2024. And Ray, I know Ray is going to pepper spray you with hard questions. I'm a gentle soul, but Ray is. So anyway, we look forward to seeing you next week with our
episode number 385. Wow.
Amazing. If it's Friday, it's Disrupt TV. Thank you for watching. We'll see you here next week for our last show of 2024. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.